Hey Picasso, I just wanted to show you a little bit about what I was talking about. Um, Basically, we were discussing how to make a bunch of checkboxes put information into the database. And so we have this thing. I didn't have your data set, so what I decided to do was to write a for each loop for users, which what's going on up here is I'm just querying my database, select all users, and then I made a variable called users that's just giving me a list of whatever users I have. I think I have 3 of them in this install. And so I have all my users, and in your situation, I think you have one called utilizators or something like that. Anyway, but I have users, so for each users as you, I'm going to make a checkbox, and I'm going to give it the name utilizator. But inside of those brackets that you had, I'm going to put the ID of the user. So this is coming from my list of my users, and then just for the heck of it, in value, I'm going to put the first name. So for each users as user, I've got my checkbox. I'm sticking in there in what they would call the key, my ID, and then the user's first name. Then I've got a submit button. And so we'll just call this submit. So anyway, up top, I have this if not empty post. And so if somebody hits the submit button, go through the post and take the utilizator, and then instead of doing like a for each as I did before, where here I did users as you, I'm going to break this down into a key value pair. And so if I were to come in here, I could put dump key to do a var dump of that, and dump value. Sorry, I'm looking over to the side here. I can neaten this back out. Okay, so I have that. So now if there's a submission, it's going to give me the key and the value. And so if I come in here, refresh the page, and I click number 1 and 3, I'm going to get the number 1, the first one here. This is the user ID, and then this is the username. This is the first name. This is the third user, and this is my name. So you can see if I were to come in here instead and hit the second one, I'm going to get user ID 2, and that one is user. That's the default one that comes in user spice. So any combination of these I do, I'm going to have their ID and their first name. Now I don't really need the first name, but I was just showing that you could stick it in there and make it part of that key value. So in other words, if I wanted to, let's look at this for a second here. I'm not logged in, so I'll just go ahead and log in as admin password. Okay, so I've logged in. I'm admin, so my user ID is 1. If I come over here, I could see my user ID. I guess you can't really see your own user ID very well. Anyway, so my user ID is 1 right here. There it is. So that's me, and then user ID 2 is the default user, and that's there. But anyway, so I've got that, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in here, and let's just look at the database for a second. Let's say I want to come in here to beta. This is the right database, and I'm going to make a table. I'm just going to make a new table called Picasso. I think that's how you spell it. Sorry if I messed up your name. I'll just put Pika. I guess you're a guy, so I'm going to put Pico. Anyway, so, and then I'm going to come in here and just do ID, and we'll make that an auto increment. That's an auto increment. And then we're going to just I will put task ID, because you have something like this going on here, task ID, and then I'll just put fname like this, and I'll make that a varchar. I think this is pretty basic to you, but I just kind of want to give you an idea how it all works. So I'm going to save this, and okay, good. So I've got that going on now. So let's say that every single time I hit submit, I want to update this with the list of whoever's checked. So what I would do is I would come in here and I would do fields equals array, get my semicolon there because I always forget that, and then I'm going to put task ID, I think is what I called it, task ID as that one, and then I'm going to do that would be key, because that's coming from right here. And then I will do the first name as, and that should be a hash rocket, and I'm going to do this as the value. And then after I get that, I'm going to do db insert. We're going to go into Pico, and we are going to do fields. So basically what we're doing is every single time that a box is checked, now I've already shown you how to get the last ID and all that kind of stuff, which is what you would need, but you're going to see that every time a box is checked, no matter how many times the box is checked, it's going to insert a new row into the database with this information. So if I save it, so I can come in here, let me say I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to come here and refresh page, make sure we're good. So I'm going to hit 1 and 3, and when I update that, and I go to beta and Pico, it's right there. So it's going to show. So what I've done is I've taken my for each loop, and I've been able to generate whoever I want to go in there. So this time I'm going to enter in all 3 of them, and they're all going to come in there. So basically that's how you deal with for each loops. So what's important is that I'm keeping this task ID, which this is really just the user ID, but I'm getting that through this whole key value thing that I generated here by sticking in the user ID inside of this utilizator thing, and I have access to that when the form is submitted. So anyway, I hope that helps.